in a little bit of a rush there. Let's bring back in our guest, board-certified forensic psychiatrist, trial expert, witness, and columnist, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Dr. Carol Lieberman, everything is moving very quickly here. I mean, very, very quickly. We get that. But do you think the house was, I wanted to be in a house that's just for me and Lori, you know, because this is the new segment in my life? Or do you think it was to cover up the evidence that was in the backyard?
Well, it might have been to cover up the evidence. It is rather strange that he would take Lori to a prefab house rather than live in the nicer house that was the original one. And this idea that, oh, I would be uncomfortable living there because, you know, Tammy was there. And I mean, it just doesn't sound accurate, or it doesn't ring true. But, you know, this witness was quite a character, Ron Arnold. You know, for all the way through, you could tell that he had sort of a strange attitude towards the whole thing. And of course, then he eventually, you know, it all exploded when he then eventually, when there was a talk about how many acres the house was on. And he then brought up, you know, the Pryor, the defense attorney, asked him how many acres, and he said a certain number, and then Pryor was going to say, he said, I thought it was this, like a higher number, and then it turns, and then of course Ron says, well, you should know, you own the house, and that was really, you know, the idea that he owns Chad's house now, and of course, presumably it has to do with the fact that Chad ran out of money, and the judge made Pryor stay as his attorney. So I guess that was the way that they worked it. But it just seems all kinds of inappropriate and strange that there would be that kind of connection. Shouldn't he have recused himself? Well, I guess he couldn't.
No. Let's play the moment for everybody, and then I have a comment on the back end of it. Let's watch it.
The acreage that you're talking about, do you have any recollection of how much acreage we're talking around that surrounds Chad's house?
You own it. How many acres is it?
Well, I appreciate it. I don't know. Judge, could we have a sidebar?
Yes.
Wow. So here's the thing. Like, I remember stories from my dad who, you know, sometimes you got to take payment from clients and different things. Like, a client comes in my dad's office, says, I don't have the money. You know, Nick, I don't have it. And he goes, that's a nice watch you have right there, isn't that nice? Well, can I see that watch? You know, that's the way we did it back in the day, Doctor. Not me, but my dad. So John Pryor, I think he's originally from Jersey, so he's got a little bit of old school in him. So, you know, you got to pay for it somehow. Dr. Carol Lieberman, your thoughts about their thoughts. Like, all this is happening very quickly. You go from October 9th to November 5th, and his world has completely changed. And, like, people aren't going to say, oh, Chad, what's going on here?
Yes, it seemed like he was doing everything to hide it all as quickly as possible. In other words, instead of, you know, putting stuff on social media and having a lot of people at the funeral and at the memorial and so on, you know, he didn't really want to do that. He wanted to get it done so quickly. And, you know, and of course, not having an autopsy and all that, it was like, of course, I'm not familiar really with that much detail about the Mormon religion, but in terms of thinking that God wants them to, you know, gather the 144,000 and so on, I think they rationalize everything. So I don't think they really believe that, or that they were doing these things because of that. You know, I think it was more, and you know, the interesting part, or one of the interesting parts, is that how there wouldn't have been an autopsy if Arizona hadn't called the pathologist and said that Chad was a person of interest in Arizona, you know, for these cases for Lori's husband and so on. So everything was, I think he was trying to get things done before there were too many questions asked.
Well, I want to thank our guest tonight, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Always great to have you on the program. We appreciate your valuable time and great insight, and we'll see you again very, very soon.